Hey everybody, it's Jim from Bennett's Hot Rods. Give you just a little bit of what we're doing today. We took a day off of the Mustang, waiting on some parts for that car. We can show you that we got the floor pan fitted in it now, and we're also starting to take apart Cindy's '67 Cornet.
You want to do it one more time?
Yes, I do.
Excellent.
I want to learn how to not say
It is a practice.
I know.
Like I just did. See what you do. It's contagious.
That's like sneezing. Hey everybody, it's Jim from Bennett's Hot Rods. Give you an update on what we're doing today. We're stopping a little bit, just for a little bit of time on the Mustang because we're waiting on some parts and we want to have them before we start welding anything in, so we make sure everything goes together real well. So what we've done, and I know a lot of you have been asking about it, is we've started taking Cindy's Cornet apart to get ready to build her a beautiful car. Let's go see.
I should have paid attention in high school. I've been grinding on the inner fender splash shield to get the undercoating off, just to get to the bolts to take the splash shield out.
The car was heavily undercoated, factory undercoat, and they weren't shy at all with it. So
They poured it on, that's for sure.
Go wash your face.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what we got done on the Mustang and why we're working on this now and holding off on that. As you can see, we've got the floor fitted into the car. A couple little issues with it. One, we stopped because we're waiting on the toe boards. We're waiting on one rear inner fender well. Overall, it fits very nicely. I'm very happy with the parts. We got these from CJ's Pony Parts. It really went in without a problem. But let me take a look at. We got one problem area with it. I want to show you.
Dishwashing soap?
No, I got car washing soap.
Fine.
Over there on the pressure washer. Everything fit, like I said, fit together pretty well, except if you get down here in this corner, the floor pan doesn't fit exactly around this wheel well, which has no damage. So we're not gonna try and beat this to fit or anything. What we're gonna do is cut right along here, and then we'll take a piece of sheet metal, match it perfectly to the curve on that inner fender well, and then we'll weld the lip back on it, grind it all down so it's all gone. There'll be no clue that we were ever in here. We fit the seat platforms in. They're relatively close. I'm not upset with them at all. That'll work fine. But once we get the toe boards, to see the rust continued on well beyond the floorboard. So like I said, we're going to replace all that too. Mike was here today. He's super happy with everything that's going on with the car, and we're good to go on more.
Today, the first thing I did was come in and take off the bumper, the headlight bezels, the grille, and the header panel. And that gives me access to take the fenders off so I can get to the doors.
Going to drill 1/8-inch pilot holes. That way when the doors, hood hinges, any movable parts on the car, we made sure that everything was lined up before we started taking it apart. That's very important, because if you just blow a car apart, paint it all, and then go to put it back together and nothing fits, you're going to be angry. Ask me how I know. We've got to be real careful with this car, simply because of the fact that it's an original car. We will be replacing wiring. I'm not doing an aftermarket wiring harness in this car. I'm going to actually bite the bullet and buy Mopar harnesses for this car, because we're not modifying anything. We are going to change out from this giant horsepower robbing air conditioning system to a vintage air system. May do a serpentine belt drive. I'm not sure on that yet, but it's just, again, when you take stuff apart, catalog it, bag it, mark the bags, make sure the bag is closed. That way when the car goes back together, it's fairly seamless.
Yeah, that's just off the bumper, the header panel, and the grille and the bezels.
some of these may need to be replaced. When we get inside and there's stainless steel screws inside, we're going to want to take them out. We're going to bag them and put them away. When it comes time to reassemble the car, if there's any pitting on them or anything like that, we're going to go ahead and replace them. But at least we know what they are, where they are, and it's very easy to find them.
This is what the pilot holes, it's just an 1/8 inch pilot hole, goes in each hinge with the hood still attached to the car, so the hole is in the hood and the hinge. We drill the holes with the hood on the car still tight. That way the hole is in both the hood and the hinge in the correct spot. So you just put a pin in there, you know it's in the right place, bolt it down, you know it's exactly where it was when you took it off.
What we're going to do as soon as we've got a lot of this stuff off, disconnect the wiring harness, exhaust, get underneath the car, disconnect the drive shaft, take the transmission cross member out of it. Then we're going to move it over to the 2-post lift. Lift the car, the front suspension, and the K-member and the transmission, lift the car off of that. Because that's how these cars were assembled. They were assembled, the engines and everything went in through the bottom. It's extremely easy, a lot easier than throwing a rope over a tree and trying to get your motor out. And then this motor will go off and get rebuilt. We don't do any in-house machine work, but I do have somebody that's going to do that for us. And then by the time we get the motor back, we should be at least the engine compartment in paint, so we can get that all back together.
Just removing the horns. There is a high note and a low note horn. And then they go in the file with everything else. I'm struggling. Trying to get the fender off. Even though I got the bolts out, the undercoating is still holding it together. It's weather stripped together.
Really?
I mean, undercoated.
Well, we still working on taking Cindy's Coronet apart. Bobby's got the whole nose off, doors are off, got the interior out of the car. Interesting thing about the interior, the seats are literally perfect. They need to be cleaned up a little bit, but we can actually reuse her factory seats, which not only is going to save her money, but it's original seats to the car. We found 3 build sheets in this car. That's odd to have 3 build sheets, so almost positive the car's 100% original anyway. And we found virtually no rust on this car yet. Surface rust, that's it. There are no holes. Pull up the carpet here and look at the floors. I mean, the floors are perfect. You know, there's just no rust in all the typical Mopar places. So it's pretty clean. Up until right now, the only damage that we found on the car is this. It appears it got punched in this rear area at one time, because this is all wrinkled, and if you compare it to this side, this one's all straight. And as Bobby pointed out, there's a gaping hole in that one that we got to fix. But trunk floors, trunk drop-offs over here, which are normally shot on a Mopar this vintage, are just simply not. This is an extremely clean car, a survivor grade car. The original jack was in the car, the original spare tire cover, even this piece that hooks under the bumper to lift the car, it's all there. So we're going to restore all that for her when we put it back in the car. See a little bit of the damage right here where it's wrinkled right there. So the car was obviously hit, but not really hit hard. And then, you know, as I pointed out before, in typical spots, we'll know more when we get the chrome and the windows out. There's a little bit of rust here, and then of course, like we said, on the roof, where Louise right now is making sure that everything stays put. We got fenders off, hood off, trunk lids off, A lot of these parts will be replacing. All the original sheet metal to the car we're of course going to fix. All the stainless will be sent out to be polished and painted in the middle, and we'll just new emblems. We can get the new Dodge emblems and the Coronet 440 emblems and so forth. And then we got, you see here, we stripped off the quarter chrome. Quarter chrome. Mama, don't take my quarter chrome away. I can't sing.
Me neither.
Yeah, and they drilled some holes and used a different tab in a couple of spots on this side. I've been able to locate the original tabs. I've ordered them, so we'll be able to weld these holes up and don't have to worry about using. I mean, it worked fine, but they were wrong. So we're going back correct. All in all, just I mean, seriously clean car. You know, people talk about survivors and barn finds and stuff like this. No, I didn't find this car. It has belonged to somebody all along. They knew where it was, and but it's just been with no special care to store the car. It survived better than pretty much any car I've ever seen. Bobby found this too. Old can of Snap Silicone Tire Shine.
$1.99.
$1.99. So that tells you how long it's been in the car, because a can of Tire Shine now is about $10. It's amazing we left it so we could show you, but there is a mouse, and it feels actually like there's a corpse in there, but this material came from somewhere else. They imported it to this car because there's no damage to the seats inside. There's no, how do I put it nicely, fecal matter. I think it's pretty cool that we're going to be able to just treat these seats nice, clean them up real good, put a softener on them, and we can actually reuse the original seats that she had in this car when she was 17 years old. Same seats. When you have a situation where you get rats, squirrels, raccoons, werewolves, Bigfoot, stuff like that, that move into a car and take up a home, they pee everywhere and they crap everywhere and they just chew everything inside, eat everything they can possibly get to make their nests, have their babies, and the babies grow up, and apparently the mice realized that this was a really, really nice car and that they should not defecate in it. These pieces right here cover your hinges for your seat backs. This is something that normally breaks on a car within its first few years of existence. They're dirty, we have to clean them, but there are no cracks either side. There's not a single rip, tear, or split seam in any of these seats. Underneath here, there's no damage under here. We found, like I said, we found 3 build sheets in the car, one under this seat, one under the rear seat bottom, and one under the rear seat back. So I'm going to get in touch with Galen Govier, who is the guru on Mopar stuff, and just find out exactly what the story is on this car. These seat bases, of course, will be repainted, sandblasted and repainted, but that is all we have to do to the seats on this car, which is going to save her a bunch of money, saves us a bunch of time. Even the cushioning in it is still good. These are what they call seat buns or biscuits. They're not torn up anywhere. That's a good thing. A lot of times when people store a car, they'll throw a bunch of stuff inside it on the seats and forget about the car for years and years and years, and then you go out and there's going to be a dimple in the seat. There's going to be some, the imprint of a starter or a carburetor or air filter, air cleaner that somebody left in the car. Cindy didn't leave anything in this car. She parked the car and walked away, and that was that. So, good job.
It's not even like worn.
Yeah, dude, that car's 54 years old.
That's unreal.
Yeah, it is. The car had the very latest in anti-theft technology for, I guess, 1980. This is the pin that operates your dome light. When you open the door, your dome light comes on. This is one that works with this goofy siren here that's supposed to set the alarm off, but as you can see, at some point it got bent over, so it's never been doing anything. But we'll fill that hole, get rid of that. If she wants a security system in the car, we can do that, because there's just ways to do it now where it's so much better than that. Bobby's pulling the bolts out of throttle pedal right now so we can get the carpet out of the car, which, oddly enough,
They're hot.
they're hot and he hurt himself again. So,
Yep.
but if you look at the carpets, they're faded and of course dirty, but there are no rips in the carpet. A 54-year-old carpet that still, no, we can't use it, of course not, but it just, you know, when I was a kid, if I had a car that had carpet like it, now I was in heaven. We've taken off the whole nose of the car, started dismantling the interior, removed the doors, trunk lid, the bumpers, everything, and we've probably got 40 bags of nuts and bolts, but I'll stress it every time. If you do it this way, you may end up replacing some of this stuff, but at least we know we have it and we know exactly where it goes. You could get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, take this car apart and throw all the bolts in the car, in the bucket, and then you're scrounging to figure out which one goes to which, because a lot of them are special. Like myself and Bobby, special.
I got 29 bags right.
29 bags and we don't even have the motor out yet. Or the suspension. Or a lot of the interior.
Yeah.
Nothing. We'll end up with a good 100 bags.
Nothing gets thrown away really until the car is done, because you never know if you can actually get the part or not. Especially now with Corona, it's allowed to be a year before you can get anything.
It's got some little dings in it and stuff like that, but I do have a guy that does stainless steel, and it is a intricate dinging it out, banging it out, sanding it, banging it out, sanding it, polishing it, banging it out, sanding it, takes forever, and it costs a little bit of money. But you know, if you're going to paint a car to a certain level and then you put crap chrome back on it, that's what's going to stand out. The interior door panels, also, there's not a single rip in them, but these are backed by like a fiberboard type of thing, and over time, moisture will warp them, so we can't reuse these. Somebody wants to use them on a car, they're probably fine, but we'll do new arm pads, new arm pad bases. These will be re-chromed, or I'll just buy new ones. Door handles, all the rubber's going to get replaced. Of course, the weather stripping that you see going around the door and so forth. And then same thing on the rear. If you take a look over there at the rear interior panels, those are actually really good. Got a couple wrinkles in them, but you know, it's a shame because they're in really, really good shape, but we're going to go ahead and replace them. And of course the headliner is foobarred, so we're going to fix the headliner. You know, all this stuff, if I can find it, I'll find it. If not, I'm going to send it out and get it re-chromed. The gauge cluster, all that'll be done. All switches. This will be a brand new 67 Coronet. If Mark Warman wants to step in and tell us what we're doing wrong, now's the time. We're finding a bunch of little stuff that we're going to have to do because so much of the car is intact and still usable. It's just got to be restored, replenished, what have you. But I mean, we've got date-coded seat belts and you know, as much originality as we can keep to the car, we're going to keep to the car. The original radio is missing from the car, and we're going to get an original radio for it, but I have another guy that makes them FM as well as an 1/8 inch auxiliary input, so you can do your Pandories and all that kind of stuff and play your music on it. Even the dash pad doesn't have any cracks in it. I mean, all reusable stuff, and it's all high dollar stuff if you have to go and replace it. When we get it off of here, if it retains its shape and doesn't crack and everything, we're going to reuse it because it's not broken. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's a wheel tax from Sumner County. 1988 was the last time this car was on the road, so it's been parked for a little bit. In the course of time going by, the car's going to deteriorate even sitting. It's a 1967. It looks like it probably did in 1975. There's really no difference. It's just a total time warp. So having fun with this one. If a car sits for a long period of time and gets moisture in it, and again with the vermin and whatever gets in it, your brake line's dry and cracked. You know, you have obviously mechanical issues with the car that are going to be a problem. You know, bushings and control arms and shock absorbers and things like that all just deteriorate from sitting. And normally when somebody has an old car like this, they park it in the yard and throw a tarp over it, and this car was actually put inside. It was an open barn that it was in. It wasn't heated or anything like that, but it had concrete floor, no door on the end of it, so it was semi-exposed to the elements, but not crazy. So this is a happy car. This is a happy car versus the Mustang, which is not a happy car. It will be a happy car. This car's going to be happier. Take a look at the floors on this car. This is just, sorry if I'm being redundant about stuff, but this is literally amazing on a car of this vintage. There's, just a tiny little bit of surface rust up in the front, a little bit over on this side, but all that's going to clean up. Nothing needs to be replaced. Just phenomenal. We don't mind putting floors in cars, but if we don't have to put a floor in a car, that's all that much better. You know, we'll replace all the rubber plugs and then, because over time they get brittle and probably not doing their job as good as they should. And she's actually going to drive this car. I'm fairly confident when she gets it back, she won't probably drive it as much as she thought she would, because she's really going to be impressed. Her mom actually has a black Chevelle. I believe it's a 69 or 70. So you know they're going to go catting around in their muscle cars.
Bobby, tell us about your shirt.
My son gave it to me from Christmas. It was Christmas.
That's a redneck Christmas, folks.
Yeah. Yee.
All right, Bobby's starting to cut the top off, and we got it peeled back, and this is why, like you said, this is why you hate vinyl tops, because they get moisture under them. If it's done correctly and the car's cared for, again, the car's 54 years old, the integrity is still there in the roof. A lot of times, if you peel something back like this, you're going to find that the integrity is not there. Now, we're going to grind this all down. Of course, we'll have to put some polyester body enhancer on it or something, but and then we're going to paint it and then send it out, of course, for a vinyl top. But it's all very repairable. There's a little bit of rust, a couple of little spots. There's one here, like we showed you in a previous video. We've got a little bit back here. This is all a fairly easy repair. It's time consuming, but it's a fairly easy repair. If you take your time when you're going to look for a car, let's say you're going to buy a car, you're looking for a 67 Coronet, you can probably look at a dozen of them. Take your time. Find a car that's relatively close to the way this is, because it will literally save you thousands of dollars at the body shop. Hey everybody, welcome to Bennett's Hot Rod Garage. Kind of a slow day today. Bobby's out getting a bikini wax. He didn't come today, so what I did was took trim off the windshield of this car. This is something you want to be extremely careful with, because they do make aftermarket trim for these cars, but it is 100% absolute trash. So if you can save the original trim and polish it, take your time. It's monotonous. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Basically, these two things right here are going to be your best friends. This one, you slide underneath the trim and try and catch this little clip and pull that clip out, and your chrome will pop off. Theoretically, doesn't happen that quickly. A lot of things come into play on a car that's 50 years old. Sealer, I mean, there's 50 years of junk in there, so it kind of wants to hold the trim in place. So we got it out. This piece here, this is a gasketed windshield. It's not set in butyl or windshield urethane. It actually has a rubber gasket. This is rope install is what you would call it. But to try and get the windshield out and save the windshield, because it is an original Chrysler windshield with a date code and everything, if we can keep the car as much original as possible, we will. But this right here had an additional piece of rubber. Okay, the windshield sits in a groove in this rubber gasket. And what you do is you take your knife, you stick it up in that groove, and you cut it right along the windshield. If you hear a crackling noise, you're going to need a new windshield. So you have to be very, very careful. This is time consuming, but it's really the only way to do it right without being a hammer and just busting stuff all to pieces. From what I can tell around the front of the windshield, I have 0 rust in the window pinch weld, which is just amazing. Again, you know, there's more amazing things about this car I get uncovered every day. These little clips here have to go on before the windshield goes in, because you won't be able to get them in once the windshield's in. So I'm going to buy all new ones because they lose their spring, and there's a small stud that you really can't see. Not me, I mean up here there's a small stud that these clip on to. We're going to just go ahead and replace all of those. Now we're going to go take a look at the back, because we got the trim off the back too, and I wanted to show you a little bit better about the rust that we found there. We knew it was there, and it really isn't any worse than I'd initially imagined. This is remnants of the old windshield gasket. Here, like I said, in the back, we've got the rust here that we found. Knew it was there, really not any worse than what I thought it would be. And then we got the rust up here on the top, and then we got a little bit of heavier scale on the roof, but we'll be able to get that taken care of. You can see, like I told you on the front windshield, this is how the gasket used to sit. The window is actually in a channel between 2 pieces of rubber. Well, it's actually 1 piece of rubber with a channel in it. And I generally just take the knife and go up like that and slice it until I get it out. Now the windshield is only sitting on the inside of the rubber gasket. I can take a blade around that, break the seal, because over time it kind of glues itself to it, and break that seal, and we pop this glass right out. That's about it. Again, maybe you can get a better look at the clips here. Like I said, you have to now keep in mind there's a piece of chrome over the top of this, so you can't see anything. You have to pull this and grab that clip and pull it away from the body for the chrome to come off. Not as easy as it looks. It takes some time, it's tedious, and you want to be careful not to break any of the studs off that hold those clips. Be very, very careful with the trim, like I said, so you don't bend it, because aftermarket replacements are garbage. We can use the original trim on this car, we just got to polish it up. And that's it. This is your roof rail weather strip. There's a piece of weather strip in here that we've already taken out, which exposes the screws that hold it in. Take those screws out. There's a piece of foam tape between the body of the car and this chrome, which is also replaceable. Don't try and save it, because you're not going to. Same with the window gasket, back window, windshield gaskets. You're not going to save them. You have to replace them, and they're not super expensive. So we just about got this out. I got one more screw, and then it's on to pulling the dash apart. Get the glass out, pull the dash apart, then we'll get back with you and we'll take the motor and transmission, rear end, all that out, put the car on a dolly. Finger guns, back in style. Got Cindy's car all pretty much torn apart. Got the glass out, which was a nightmare, but we didn't break any of it. We're going to lift the car up off the ground, start to disassemble it from underneath, then build a dolly that the car will come back down on, a separate dolly for the engine and transmission, with the K-frame, taking the entire front suspension, transmission, motor out all in one piece. And then we'll break that all down on the ground. It's just easier. Drop the rear end out, and then I can rebuild it, get the car in the rotisserie, turn it over and sandblast it. Underneath the car is just as clean as the top. I mean, there's just literally no rust under here. This is going to clean up so nice. I mean, it's not heavily undercoated. Just the inner fender wells had the heaviest of the undercoating on them. But I mean, there's typically your rear frame rails are going to have some issues, floorboards, so on and so forth. We've got no issues with this car. It's just basically take it apart and do it again. We're going to be rebuilding everything, but I'll show you some of the things that are going to come out so we can get this assembly out. These bolts right here, back them off. Then your torsion bars, which is your front suspension. You see there's no springs in there. Most of you guys already know this, but just pointing it out for somebody who might not. We get the torsion bars out. Like I said, those shock towers on both the top of the shocks. And then it's pretty much just going to come out. Everything in here, of course, will be new. All of steering components, there'll be new. The torsion bar adjusters will do that. Upper and lower ball joints. We're actually changing this car to disc brakes, so this piece here does not apply any longer. But we'll get it all back on the road. This car is literally, it's a time capsule, so we're going to be able to do this one pretty quick.
Spiders!
This takes immense amounts of skill to do this. That's it. I mean, today's Thursday, 4 days, we tore it apart. Another day we'll get the motor and all that out tomorrow, and the next time we lift the car up, everything stays on the ground. We've got just the body. A couple things we'll have to do on the ground because we don't want the engine and transmission falling on us, because that's a drag. And I have had that happen, actually. It's a drag. And then we'll just pick the car up and we'll have our front and rear suspension assembly, engine, transmission, roll them out of the way, and we can get the rotisserie in here, put the car on the rotisserie, and call the sandblaster. 1 week, not bad. Checkbook. You're going to probably be using one of those a lot, because I do. But that's how it is. See that? It's a bounce check. Just...